Good morning, guys. So welcome to this week's Developer Zone. I'm just going to do a sound check in a minute. Make sure that you can all hear me. Right, so this week's Developer Zone, guys. So this week's Developer Zone is all about you as the members of the Developer Zone. We do this just for our membership, and we do it every Thursday at 8 a.m. London time. So this week, there's some technical content, but I just want to talk about themes really this week, and things that we are doing at Zimmer Peacock and things that I think we can be doing in the ZP Developer Zone. So not so much on the technical side this week, but just more themes and ideas that I would like to discuss with you guys. So obviously we have this Developer Zone. I have put this slide up a few times before, and I think one of the questions is, we should be doing collaborations within our zone, and Abril is a good example of that kind of collaboration. And I'm always asking the question, what else should we do in this zone to kind of give real value to you guys? And so the Developer Zone is sort of definitely useful to you all as as members. I just want to put up some news. So this week on I think the 23rd to the 25th, or sorry, next week, next week, the 23rd to 25th, there's a online webinar or online conference called ICST, and Hasim, one of the members of the ZP Developer Zone, will be talking at that conference. So I just want to kind of just let you know that he's going to be talking about molecular imprinted polymers and electrochemical sensing. So Hasim is talking next week at the ICST. Next week at Thursday at 8 a.m. BST or London time, and 2 p.m. for example in Jakarta, we're doing a large public webinar on food sense, and specifically on chili detection. So I hope you guys will be signing up for that one. It will be featuring the food sense. We'll be doing one of those live demos that we like to do. It might be quite interesting, especially to some of you who are interested in food and food analysis. So there's going to be a large webinar next week, a public one, on the detection of actually gingerol in ginger. So I hope you guys can make it along to that. We are, and I am still planning. There's a conference in Korea next year that I think it's called the Biosensors Congress, and ZP will be going to that, and we'll be running a workshop there. But also then we're going to come across to Jakarta and hold really our first ZP Developer Zone webinar. I am very sensitive to the fact that this COVID-19 has it hasn't gone away, and it's not so we'll have to revisit whether this is going to happen or not. But at the moment we're not planning to do it until 2021, and halfway through 2021. But of course, we might have to revisit this. But we are planning to do a 2-day workshop or conference for the Developer Zone in Jakarta next year. And we did last week. We did a webinar on machine learning, and we talked about LINET 5, and that is an ongoing collaboration that we have with Abril. So just want to sort of touch upon that. And that's what I want to say. The ZP Developer Zone is a collaboration zone, and Abril is our first example of that. But I want many more of you who are in the Developer Zone to also collaborate with us. So I'm hoping that you reach out to me at ZP, and we can start this kind of collaboration. So I'll be happy to do that. And I want to talk about brainstorming as well, which is this is the ZP Developer Zone. So, what do we want to achieve as members? And I want our collaboration to be greater than the sum of just us individually. And I want us to be able to, coordinate, which is what the ZP Developer Zone allows us to do. And I want it to also be able to run useful services for you guys, like jobs or looking for jobs, or maybe even having an online journal, writing online books about biosensing and sensing in general. And I'm also kind of thinking that I want to do startups with some of you, and so let's talk about Kickstarter as a way of funding startups. I also want to touch on ZP Lab. So ZP Lab is an incubator that Zimmer and Peacock runs. So ZP is potentially capable of partly funding startup businesses. And so we see ourselves collaborating with entrepreneurs who have a good business idea that is sensor related and have partial funding. And the reason I mention partial funding is when you're doing a startup, you can sometimes find sort of three sources of, well, I'll describe three sources of funding. You have government funding, and for startups, it is available, but it's often only partial. So then you need to find an investor to kind of make up the shortfall. With ZP, we're probably described as a smart investor, that we often understand the technology, and we also have some cash. So it's investment, but it's a smart investment because we generally understand the technology. We probably also understand the business that you're trying to get into. So if you're a member of the ZP Developer Zone and you're interested in starting a business and you want to discuss this, then I would reach out to us at, regarding ZP Lab. And it's probably worth saying that, at ZP, we are actually very entrepreneurial in our outlook. So at the moment, we have different sister companies of ZP in different regions. So we have Macias Sensors in Spain. We have ZP Eastern Europe, which is based in Macedonia. We have ZP for Asia, which is, many of you know, Hasima Jakarta and Jati. And they're in Indonesia. We have IAChem, which is a ZP sister company in Ireland, and we have Madalex, which is a ZP sister company in France. So we definitely have a very entrepreneurial, and we do support the startup of businesses, especially if those businesses are aligned with us as well. Now I'm going to change I'm going to change theme slightly here and sort of say that obviously at Zimmer and Peacock, we are about business, and we are about the business of commercializing biosensors. But in doing this business, we want to make sure that we're actually aligned with society and the society community and our environment as best we possibly can. And so we're aligning ourselves as a business with the Sustainable Development Goals. And the UN Sustainable Development Goals are a sort of list of goals that if we can drive towards those goals, then we and therefore and the society that we can influence is also sustainable. And so what we've done is we've looked at the 17 UN sustainability goals, and we've kind of said to ourselves, well, as a business, there's the 17 goals that we should be aiming for. But we also, as a business, what do we do first? Because you can't do 17 things in parallel unless you're a really large business. We have to be able to focus. And so what we did is this. We obviously, we're a fairly democratic business. And so we sort of said to our ZP team at our last big company meeting, okay, guys, there are these 17 UN goals. There are these 17 UN goals. How do we, or what's important to you as team members? And so everyone had some votes, and they all voted. And, in the end, the votes came back that good health and well-being, that's what people felt passionate about in ZP. Okay, so that was we were going to basically choose the top four. So we said, okay, we'll do the top four. And so people said, well, as one of the top four, I want good health and well-being. They said that they wanted clean water and sanitation. They said that they wanted to do climate action, and they wanted to take care of life below water. So, and then, as we can say that we're working towards these four, then we can take, we can work through the whole 17 of them and make sure that as a business we're aligned on these. So yeah, so these were the top four that people were interested in: good health and well-being, clean water and sanitation, climate action, and life below water. So ZP, in going about and trying to be a profitable and sustainable business, we also want to be aligned with the UN Sustainable Goals. And so if we look at, for example, good health, we're very lucky that we're actually a sensor and biosensor manufacturer. And actually, many of our products are naturally aligned with good health and well-being. Glucose sensors are used in, the classic example would be sort of diabetics. Oxygen sensors, your oxygen level in your blood is really important. Even in this COVID-19, when oxygen levels drop, people are going to get into serious trouble. So measuring the DO, the dissolved oxygen in blood, is important, and we're able to do that. Lactate sensors, unfortunately, when your oxygen levels drop, you become anaerobic and your lactate levels go up. Hydrogen peroxide is a stress marker. So if somebody's cells are stressed, then they can be giving out hydrogen peroxide. The pH in blood is very important. The chloride levels, or the chloride levels in blood is important. So this whole list, potassium is important, calcium, alcohol is probably more for foods. But a lot of what we do is luckily or fortunately aligned with the UN Sustainable Goals. So that makes us actually feel quite good that as a business, at our core, what we do as a core company is actually really aligned with the goodness of improving society overall. Now, one of the other goals was life below water, and so life below water, we've got to we are sponsoring a PhD in Norway. So if you're a member of the ZP Developer Zone and you know of a student looking for a PhD at the moment, then we do have the ZP Developer Zone in Norway is looking for a PhD candidate. Now that is looking at the conditions in the fish pen and the health of the fish in the fish pen. So we are, as a company, definitely working on life below water. And it's probably also worth saying that linked to that is there is a website out there called ZP AgTech. So ZP AgTech is our, we're making a sensor for measuring nitrate in soil. But life below water, one of the issues with life below water is that actually farmers are using fertilizers and a lot of nitrate on the soil, and it's done in quite an unmonitored way, and it's running off the soil and it's going into the water courses, and then it goes down the streams and into the rivers. And when it's doing this, it causes things like microorganisms and algae to bloom. And the blooming of this algae can lead to suddenly a depletion of the oxygen, and the fish can die. So we do have technologies and projects, and I'm just naming two here, where actually monitoring the nitrate in the soil will mean that the right amount of fertilizer is put on, and then the basic chemical pollution of the water courses will be reduced. So I think it says that if you're doing sensors in life, then you're probably doing a good thing for society in general. So we are definitely trying to align ourselves with UN Sustainable Goals. So I just want to sort of mention that. And then I think I want to just sort of summarize that. If you're a member of the ZP Developer Zone, then we are looking for, tell us what you want us to work on, for example. So tell us the themes and the subjects that you'd like us to work on. If you are a member of the ZP Developer Zone, then reach out to us for collaboration. And then finally, there's a public webinar next week We're doing some live demonstrations on the use of the food sense for ginger and measuring ginger oil. And we hope that you guys can attend that. So that's the end of this week's webinar for the ZP Developer Zone. I do appreciate you guys, and I'll put this onto YouTube and speak to you again. All right, cheers and bye-bye.